Let me start this way. I'm sure many of you have had this experience before. You're at home. It could be maybe spring, definitely summertime. And suddenly you get a mosquito in the house. It's kind of buzzing by your ear. Maybe it lands on you. You kind of see it, but you can't really catch it. It's not a good situation. But then you have a second thought and you wonder, is that really a mosquito or is that a CCP Chinese drone in my house sneaking around? Shelby?
That's right, Roman. The latest and greatest from the CCP's Defense Technology Institute is actually a drone, and it's the size and shape of a mosquito. Interesting, right?
Yeah. Well, the size, I can imagine, it's there for, sneaking around, but the shape is, they're trying to blend it in.
Yeah, it's funny. It actually does look like a bug. Like it has 2 small wings and 3 little legs that are, like human hair thickness, basically, to land on. It's really, really interesting. Obviously, this is designed for covert surveillance. It's, small enough to be unnoticed relatively in urban areas or sensitive areas, right? So for intel gathering, that's like the perfect golden scenario.
It's a fly on the wall.
The risk,
Yes,
of course,
literally.
is that it gets swatted.
That too. These things
Or
are
Mr.
very
Miyagi
delicate.
comes in
I'll
with the
tell you that
chopstick.
much. That's actually been a kind of like an engineering problem for a while with some of these varieties of these things. I'll get to that in a second. But just to be clear here.
Varieties, you're using the biological term.
Yes, just wait, all right? So, okay, China has unveiled this recently. It's, making the news. People are freaking out about it with the progression of this kind of technology. The US has been doing this for over a decade, just to be clear. Like, let's set the record straight. Harvard started showcasing something called the Robo-Bee like 11 years ago, right? And it's almost the same thing. That's, makes it even more interesting, right? This thing is almost identical.
Are they always creatures that sting?
I mean, hopefully not.
What is the quality of the footage that a mosquito camera could get? Is it for video or is it audio only, or what is it?
No, these are, as far as I understand it, they are fitted with like full surveillance
So we have this
capabilities.
technology, but my Apple camera is still this big?
Really?
Maybe it's a little more expensive. Any idea on the price point?
I have no idea. That, as far as I know, no info about that is available that I've seen.
Well, it can't be cheap. I mean, even a normal-sized drone commercial, that you can get commercials like 400 bones. So I mean, I can imagine something this custom and bespoke is like 10,000 maybe,
Yeah, I mean, these things come built in with, obviously sensors to take in their surroundings. They have their own power core inside, and they have a control
They're probably
mechanism.
really hard to swat.
Yes.
It's escaping me.
Definitely.
What about the tennis rackets that are electrified? What happens if it hits one of those?
I would like to see that.
Is it remote controlled, or is
Yes.
it like AI programmed that it goes?
For right now, they're remote controlled, yes.
Okay, so
But there are multiple versions of this too, right? We're talking about the Robo-Bee, right, from Harvard. There are several other iterations. Some of them look like beetles. Like we have a whole gambit of bug-shaped micro drones. My personal favorite is from MIT some years ago. It looks like a little pogo stick. It actually hops.
Oh.
Yeah, they say, compared to their aerial counterparts, they use up a lot less energy, and they can jump across uneven terrain, this kind of thing. So they're a bit more versatile in some ways, and they can carry a much heavier payload.
That's crazy. So I mean, I can imagine if you're trying to sneak this into the country somehow, that'd be super easy. Because if you're going through TSA or anything, you can remotely control a mosquito. It can just go around the sensors, even though
you can bring it on a container ship with your products, and as soon as they open up the thing, they all come flying out. No, it's some bugs.
Yeah, exactly. Or you can have like what are those things called on the ships?
Container.
The container. And let's say you open it up, and you don't have to have like a lot. You can have so few you don't even realize it. You have like 100 or 1,000, you wouldn't probably realize it, right?
I would not want to see a swarm of these things, just to be clear.
Has there ever been you mentioned we have the technology as well. Has there been a documented use of these?
As far as I know, and as far as what's publicly available, this is
declassified document.
mostly like in the academia sphere right now. Obviously, China is
so
not
it's being
shying
used, we
away
just
from
don't
the
know
fact that
about
this
it.
is like a defense application, but it's still like in the academic development kind of area right now.
Did DARPA money? Was it all DARPA
Or the
grants?
black budget?
We'll see.
So okay, so these are like reconnaissance surveillance, right? Because I was thinking maybe like explosives.
No, not as far as...
What about pathogens?
Although, something on that note, there are other kind of iterations in the same vein of this. They're much bigger. It's like, we have the Hornet, right, from the Norwegian company, right? And it's about the size of the palm of your hand instead. Obviously, that can carry more. These types of things, they can fly for a couple miles. They have thermal imaging, they have full camera capabilities, and they can fly in the wind and the rain, right? So, and we're seeing this already being used in, for instance, examples like Ukraine, right? So these are our, these slightly larger varieties are in active use now.
I'm always like really skeptical though whenever I hear something like this coming out of the Chinese Communist Party, because we know they're always trying to one up the United States and make everyone paranoid. And I mean, something that small and made in China, like I'm very, it seems very dubious as to whether it's actually, works and whether it's actually quality that you could actually surveil. But I feel something like that has the ability to make people pretty paranoid, because I mean, like, who would ever know if you see a mosquito in the corner of your room, who would ever think that that could possibly be a drone or a surveilling device? I mean, it just takes, like Chris said, the fly on the wall saying just like way too far to ever even think that it could be possible.
Are there wings like solar panels or something? Because battery technology, to my understanding, is we can't power something this big.
They do not
For a
have a
long period
super
of
long
time?
range, no,
Okay.
but the wings are not solar.
So they have to be deployed
Yes.
pretty quickly and then come out.
within reason. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Well, see, if you have a mosquito in your home and he's just flying and then suddenly dies just like this, then you know he's a CCP drone and not a regular mosquito. Okay, very interesting. Anything else on the mosquitoes before we move on to the taxis?
I will tell you that those palm-sized ones actually did just get approved, like by the DoD this week for full government U.S. military access, that kind of thing. So we're going to see more coming out of this technology on that front.
Wow. The drones for sure. There's this company called Anduril I've been following quite closely. They're a big manufacturer of the drones. And watching that guy give interviews, he makes it sound like really no matter how you slice it, the future of warfare is going to be who has the most, the smartest, and the fastest drones. Then that's pretty much it.
If you dig into that technology, I don't personally see a way that wouldn't be the case.
Okay, well, moving away from the doomsday scenario, how about taxis? How about driving drones? Tell us about the driving drones that are being deployed across the country.
Well, they're here, at least in Austin. So the Waymo, self-driving taxis have been out there for a little while, and Elon Musk just deployed the robo-taxis. So because now they're both on the road in Austin only for the robo-taxis as, the pilot, everyone's out there comparing the two, right? So there's all these passengers, doing tests about, how they perform in different scenarios. Are they pulling over for emergency vehicles? How is the ride? So far, I don't know if possibly X is promoting some of those videos over others, but the preponderance seems to be that the robotaxi is a better experience. It's smarter. It's a smoother ride. When it drops you off at a place, it'll take you right into the parking lot to the front door, as opposed to like leaving you curbside where you still have to walk 50 feet. It was performing better in terms of, that there was one video I saw where Waymo was, not fully in the left turn lane, so blocking, a bit of the lane. Different things like that. It seemed, but again, it was on X, so I'm gonna take it with a grain of salt. But the big thing is where all this could go, right? They're obviously being road tested. People are using them. They seem safe. They're just going to get safer. So the question is, well, this seems to be the future, but we're possibly a bit of a beta VHS, moment now. And when you compare the technologies, again, Tesla's getting way better rating, not just technology, but the business model. So I don't know if you look at them, if you actually look at them on the road, obviously the Teslas are way more beautiful, right? Waymo has all these like sensors on the top and the side and just all these extra things.
The Waymo cars are Jaguars.
It's true, but they still look silly with all this extra stuff.
The technology inside, I've driven around in them, and whenever I go to Arizona, I always get one for a short trip, and I go with someone else, and then they inevitably have a panic attack watching us go on the road, and I'm trying to work the music in there because they have their own music system, and it's so outdated.
So apparently the robo-taxis, the Teslas, are much better in all that regard too. And also, so an important thing is the technology is different, right? So the robo-taxis, or I'll go the Waymos first, they use radar and LiDAR, right? So they're using radar as, radio waves bouncing off things, LiDAR as light waves. So, but basically,
Can I chime in
sensors.
on
Yeah.
that and be a little bit nerdy?
Sure.
Okay, so these vehicles, right? I believe they have 6 LiDAR sensors, they have 5 regular sensors, and they have 29 visual cameras
Exactly.
around the car.
Exactly.
Like,
Wait,
these things
you
are,
mean Waymo?
yes,
The
they
Waymo
pack
ones.
a punch.
So they are expecting to be able to reduce that a bit, but the problem is all of that is extremely expensive. So the base car itself is like 75 grand or so, but then it's another over 100 grand for all of those things. So the vehicle itself is in the $175,000 to $200,000 range, whereas the Tesla is more like $25,000, $28,000. And if you own one of these, then you can add it to the fleet and make extra money, send your car out while you're sleeping. That's the vision for it. That's the business model. Exactly.
what we need.
So it's way more scalable
So sorry.
versus fleet owned for the Waymo.
And also,
Oh, go ahead.
just a quick note on that. Part of that difference in cost right there is also because the Tesla cars, like these Tesla robotaxis, they do not have all that LiDAR and
Right.
sensors.
Okay. So
They're
what they do
camera
is
only.
it's pure camera and AI learning,
Yes.
right? And I remember reading when like Elon was very certain that this is the version he wanted versus because there was a big debate even inside Tesla which direction to go. And his rationale was that the roads are designed for human beings with eyes. That's how everything is designed. So the cars should function the same way and with neural networks. But human beings don't have lasers zooming out of their eyes, right? So it doesn't make sense for the replica intelligence to have that. And obviously it ends up being a much cheaper car. And so that way it's much more scalable too. And also because it's cheaper than the cost per mile, like they're expecting the Tesla version, the robotaxi, to be 25 to 40 cents a mile versus around $2 a mile for the Waymos. So right now, since they're new on the road, they're charging a flat rate of $4.20 for the robo-taxis, and the Waymos are comparable to an Uber ride.
I see. So the robotaxi is just like a Model 3 or like a Model X? Or it's a different thing
It's
that you can buy yourself too.
you will be able to buy yourself.
you
too.
will be
Yeah,
able
yeah.
to.
It's not. Yeah, I don't think it's the models that are out there yet, but that's the vision for scalability and why there could be 100,000 of them, on the road versus 1,500 of them or whatever it is on the Waymos.
I'll be a little wary of that, though. I don't know, maybe your social media feed, Cindy, looks a little different than mine, but I've seen some really interesting videos. Okay, so just to back it up for a second, these Tesla cars, there's only like roughly 10 to 20 of them on the road. This is a very small kind of pilot test, right?
Yep.
So like some of these incidents that we're seeing pop up in some of these videos, like they're a little bit wacky. I've seen videos personally of like, these cars driving, crossing over into the wrong side of the road. Like I've seen them speeding. I've seen them like.
So I haven't seen those.
Almost
However,
rear end a UPS truck. Like there are some incidents. There's a Reddit list of 11 so far, just in like the first 2 days, I think.
so
Well,
here's
hold on.
the thing.
You
They
see,
all have.
you're getting your news from Reddit.
yeah,
She's getting her news from
exactly.
X. That's the
So
situation.
here's the thing. Currently, all of them have a supervisor, they call it. I can't remember, a guy in the passenger seat, right? Who's observing everything that's happening and taking it in. The whole idea is that it's a pilot and, learn and they'll perfect and improve things. And the Waymos, when they were first on the road too, they also had a human, in the car at that stage. So a lot of people are saying, oh, well, great, Tesla's doing really great. They're 6 years behind, Waymo. But apparently Waymo is concerned. And I guess if we look at the stock prices, that might tell you, which way the race is going. But I said right now it's a little bit at, VHS or beta videos. Everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know who's really
Blu-ray and HD DVD.
I just suddenly realized people might not actually know the reference.
Okay, so it looks like there's a lot of forks in the road. We're gonna have to soon decide between robo-taxis and Waymos versus CCP Mosquitoes or DARPA bees. Okay, a lot of choices to make. However, why don't we puff past this conversation over to Grace, who's got some CCP marijuana updates.
I do indeed. Well,
Well done.
lovely transition over. Very, very good. Well, this week, Attorney General Pam Bondi testified before the Senate this week and said that there are multiple federal investigations going on into the illegal marijuana operations happening in Maine. And now, so this is not a news story. We've known about this quite prominently for a couple of years. But I thought it was worth revisiting because their story is just so insane when you look at the scope and scale of what's going on, particularly in Maine, but into about 25 states around the country. You know, you're looking at organized crime, you're looking at the CCP's direct involvement, you're looking at human trafficking, crazy Chinese pesticides, all of these things that are taking over rural Maine in old schools, factories, warehouses, and most prominently in homes that look completely normal on the outside, but when you go inside, the whole places are decked out with growing facilities and all sorts of LED lights just growing marijuana plants like you wouldn't believe. And so this is really interesting because there's been a number of organizations that are involved that are directly tied to the Chinese Communist Party. So earlier this year, the Daily Caller did an investigation into some of the men that had been charged for being involved in these illegal growing operations in Maine. And they found that they are leaders of the Suji Association, which is a nonprofit based in New York, and it works closely with the Chinese Consulate of New York and the United Front Work Department, which is one of Beijing's main influence organizations and intelligence arms overseas. Some of these folks that are involved in these organizations even have direct ties to the Chinese Communist regime's leader, Xi Jinping. And I was shocked because I've been hearing about this, but I thought it was just small scale. But when you look into it, about 25 states, at least 270 suspected or identified growing houses in Maine alone. And you've got Senator Susan Collins of Maine, who has been sounding off about this for about 2 years now, because she is of the opinion that it's not just about money, it's not just about marijuana, it's actually about testing the limits of the United States for how much they are willing to put up with from the Chinese Communist Party. And what's interesting too is that what actually tipped investigators off about these to begin with is they were tracing the fentanyl back to a lot of these same groups that are involved in growing the marijuana. And so what I'm thinking is that, you know, this was brought up before the previous administration, the Department of Justice. There wasn't really too much that went on, though you can definitely argue it's largely a state issue. But now with the Trump administration focusing so much on fentanyl and fentanyl precursors, and these are so closely tied, these same groups, to these marijuana growing operations, that you could actually be looking at potentially some big stings or some big busts going on from the Department of Justice.
Derek Malt, who is the acting DEA head back in Trump 1, Steve Lance on Capitol Report did an interview with him the other day, and he was talking about this exact issue. And one of the things he was talking about is, you know, putting these horrible pesticides, like Chinese pesticides, on it. But the other thing he was saying is that the CCP was able to slip in there with this because of the very lax attitude towards marijuana legalization and all of that here. So they saw a really good opening.
Well, I guess I
took advantage of it.
I just don't understand the motive, because I looked it up prior to filming, and I mean, you can just get a business license and open up a cannabis growery in Maine.
A big difference, I don't know what you're going to say, but one of the big differences, one of the things I was going to say is that all the illegal ops, grow ops, there's nobody doing quality testing or controlling, and the levels of THC are way, way off the charts, and you don't know what you're going to get in your batch, and so they're...
Well, that sounds like they're offering added value to the customer.
No. Well, exactly, to get the market.
But if you get,
it
improves their profitability and their markup as well,
Exactly.
because when you're going through all these regulatory hurdles and you have to go through inspections,
yeah.
and there's other stuff, you're saving a ton of money just doing it yourself, having it
You're
be
way
covertly.
undercut those guys.
But I guess I still just wonder, like, why would, like, out of the 75 growing houses, those are 75 Chinese growing houses, you said?
And they're just like houses, like regular houses.
Houses, warehouses, schools, they're identified. Well, old schools, not ones that are no longer in use. Up to, this was actually in 2023.
Higher education.
DHS identified suspected 270 in Maine alone of different kinds of growing operations. Now, one thing that law enforcement officials are saying, and DEA officials, is that it's actually about money laundering a lot of the time, because a lot of organized crime groups from China, they can't operate obviously within the normal legal and bank framework in the United States. So they have to set up all these other kinds of companies that are, you know, illegal operations to completely operate, you know, off the scale, not being detected by the law or anything like that. But a number of China analysts have said they think it's actually even more than that. You just have to look at what the Chinese Communist Party has done with fentanyl, which many people call unrestricted warfare, and that it's a very intentional act to poison Americans, to kill Americans, and to make them less productive. And with what Cindy was saying with the increased THC, this is just speculation, but if you look at what the CCP is doing and continues to do with fentanyl, you know, weed back in the 70s, 80s, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, it's not your grandparents or your parents' generation of marijuana anymore. Even what's being sold here legally in New York, the THC levels, like Cindy said, are so much higher. And a lot of medical experts that specialize particularly in, you know, recreational drugs and what they do, like a man named Ben Court, we interview him on NTD and Epoch a lot. You know, the levels of schizophrenia, of psychosis, of even heart problems, but especially the problems of the mind are just going through the absolute roof with the increased levels of THC. And what a lot of people don't realize, because I think a lot of people just want to write it off as scare tactics to stop the kids from having fun and smoking weed, is that these problems are irreversible. So many of these people that get psychosis, and even very young people, it never really goes away, and especially schizophrenia. I'm not sure what the exact data is, but just the amount of people getting marijuana-induced schizophrenia and it never going away, and in some cases even ending in suicide, it's just horrific. So looking at that, obviously with fentanyl, we know the death rate. We don't know what the exact numbers are with marijuana of, you know, these extreme cases of schizophrenia and other mental issues, but you could see why the Chinese Communist Party might have an interest in doing that to Americans.
Just want to make one quick point on that. Our program, China in Focus, covers this quite a lot and has extensively over the years. Exactly, you made the point, you know, this has a military application as well. It's a very grim thing to think about, but, you know, kids having fun quickly turns into, you know, military-aged people.
I was just going to say that. That's exactly who fentanyl is targeting and what this targets.
It's like 60,000 young people a year, by the way, for fentanyl deaths.
Wow.
All right, well, if they don't get you with the mosquitoes, they'll get you with their CCP marijuana main-grown plants. Plots of land, I meant, like that they're growing the pot. Anyway, thank you so much for that update, and thank you for sticking around. All right, I know exactly what you're thinking. That was a great clip you just watched. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to follow, and also check out either these videos, or maybe they're on this side, I don't know which side they're on, but we set it up so these are the videos that YouTube is suggesting to you as the best ones that you'll probably like the most. So check them out, this side, and until next time.